Rich black man and big fuck off chains do nothing for black people. Fuck you, ASAP Rocky, you pretty motherfucker. Y'all think it's bougie, I'm like it's fine, but I'm trying to give you $1 million worth of game for $9.99. Damn! You know, at the time, for me, in my adolescence, that ball was so cold and wow, Hove was really setting us up. Setting us up for a great misconception. I don't think in the Western world, America predominantly, that a race of people exemplifies materialistic ignorance more than the black man. And while this is not inherently the black man's fault due to years of misinformation, erasure of history, social, psychological, economical, political, and cultural bondage that was heavily imposed by white supremacy and capitalism, we most definitely do not do anything conducive in mass scale to free us from these chains. In fact, we lean more heavily into the system as opposed to wanting to break out from it. In my videos, Epidemic of Trash Black Content Creators and Your Average That's Okay, I briefly touched on the idea of how most black content creators do nothing educational or beneficial with their platform in the former, and how the minority of wealth push us into the field of material surplus in the latter. So I'd like to synthesize those claims with the following statement. Stop blowing a whole fucking paycheck just so you can buy those looking ass boots. Pushed onto us by greater forces, we as black people are so enamored by materialistic wealth. The Lambo trucks, designer shades, the excessive properties, homes that literally look like museums that house someone with no family. We have created the notion that the more rich we are and the more properties and estates we own, the more liberated and free we are. Boy, that cannot be further from the truth. See, to further understand why this imagery of freedom exists so deep in our mind as a race, we need to first understand not just the symptoms, but the causes which gave birth, perpetrate, and further evolve this cancerous infection known as black capitalism. To understand black capitalism, you need to first understand the roots of capitalism. Capitalism is an economical doctrine where trade, industry, and the means of production are privatized and controlled by owners with self-serving interests to generate the most profit for said owners. Means of production mean the resources used to generate the assets and the products are not profited in favor of the laborers, but instead the private owners and investors. This is a system that emerged out of feudalism in Europe, another system where the ruling class and the lords reigned sovereignty over the peasants and laborers who served the higher ranks in exchange for protection and land, would soon gradually find itself in a state of decadence and soon be abolished due to numerous factors ranging from, but not limited to, widespread famine, taxations from only the peasants and not the nobles, the Black Plague, and an overall growing consciousness from the peasants who saw freedom from the system. This would slowly be a destabilizing system from the 12th to 18th century where, in the meantime, capitalism was seen not as a natural evolution from feudalism, but an opportunistic venture to, ironically, capitalize on such a decaying social state. To quote Cedric J. Robinson in his book Black Marxism, The Making of the Black Radical Tradition, these distant and separate classes of capitalists were less the representatives of an immanent, rational commercial order than extensions of particular historical dynamics and cultures. They were not the germ of a new order dialectically posited in an increasingly confining host, feudalism, but an opportunistic strata willfully adaptive to the new conditions and possibilities offered by the times. So, in simpler terms, though the growing destabilization of feudalism, merchants, and bourgeois, the capitalist class that owns means production, would establish themselves in their trades in a famine Europe as a means to make profit. This would include actions such as transporting and selling goods, resources, and other materials. It wasn't some type of mythical new world savior unveiling itself from a dying state, but one which materialized as an opportunity through the fall and collapse of a power from an absolutist rule. The intention was not to repair, but to profit and succeed by any means. Now, of course, this is a gross oversimplification of this economic history, and I do highly recommend you buy and read Black Marxism, as it's not only such a great read, but it also provides an amazing and in-depth understanding of the aforementioned concepts. So, now we know capitalism, no matter how people love to twist it to be a means of seizing an opportunity whether one exists or not, it does not irrespective of good or moral ethical codes, as the intent is to supply and multiply. Supply less, but multiply more, might I add. It should also be noted that racism is an actual byproduct of capitalism. Yes, it is a gross, disgusting symptom, not the cause of it. As Robertson would state, the bourgeoisie that led the development of capitalism would draw from particular ethnic and cultural groups, the European proletariats and mercenaries of the leading states from others, its peasants from the other cultures, and its slaves from entirely different worlds. The tendency of European civilization through capitalism was thus not to homogenize, but to differentiate, to exaggerate regional, subcultural, and dialectical differences into racial ones. Race became largely the rationalization for the domination, exploitation, and/or extermination of non-Europeans. Alternatively put, this is inherently a racist system. Why the fuck do black people love it so much? It's apparent that a lot of black celebrities both misunderstand and misuse these words, like when Stephen A. Smith would refer to himself as an unapologetic capitalist. One can only presume he means it as a means of someone who generates profit and opportunity regardless of the expense needed, or you know what? I'm gonna save this nigga for later. Because there's a constant miscommunication and a false narrative of this term and ideology. Whenever we criticize black idols for their excessive living or failure to represent strong black radical values, or any anti-conservative values for that matter, a majority resort to saying dumb shit like, man, you're hating. If you're broke, just say that. Black people can't stand to see other black people being happy. What about black on black crime? You know, when I hear shit like this, I honestly just want to say y'all might as well roam the streets saying all lives matter, because both that and capitalism were birthed from wanting to advance certain racial groups whilst deplatforming and reducing the significance of others. And just for a visual representation before I continue as to what black excellence has been led to believe it looks like. Yeah. Representation is amazing. There's this very weird idea that the addition and removal of the word black from anything that breeds controversy changes the narrative and frees you from any sort of criticism. When Idris Elba went on that weird roundabout not wanting to be limited in the box of black actors, he was surprised when those remarks were labeled as stupid. You see, Mr. Elba, as much as you like to think race should not matter, it most definitely does. When money, power, and class are involved, race tags along. I mean, you say race doesn't matter, but I've never heard anyone say the first white actor in praise of to do X, Y, and Z, or the first white musician, and that's because the only time race doesn't matter is when you want to have a seat at the white man's table. To then make such statements is not only disrespectful towards those who do not have the same fortune as you to even state such things on your platform, but it's like you're saying, I mean, yeah, it sucks, but what can a nigga do? We gotta get over it. We can't get over it because we're not doing anything as a strong collective to fix it, Idris. That's the point. So why is it okay for people to want to stray away from saying first black this and first black that, but will openly say black excellence? Why is it also not within the parameters of eliminating race from the equation? Oh, because then there's no illusion of positive progression to be had, where black actor / black capitalist equals bad, but black excellence / black wealth equals good. It frees you from any type of judgment. Shut your dumb ass up! When you see all these streamers, influencers, and rappers flex their copious wealth, it's always in the name of black excellence.
Right. To us, black excellence,
That nigga we made it from rags to riches bullshit. And while I will not disregard most of these individuals rising out of poverty, their wealth is so heavily centered on this I made it story and nothing beyond that. Upon acquiring such wealth, all they do is further supply the current and future generations that black excellence is largely, almost entirely, materialistic. It is the advancement of profit and status, and not the advocacy of edification in scientific, mathematical, cultural, or social outlets. The error is that we have collated wealth with money, assets, properties, and physical substances whilst diminishing the importance of emotional and mental substances. The wealth of knowledge, the wealth of community, health, wisdom. No, I don't just mean how to make money or how to supersede others, but in understanding the structure of our society and culture, a culture and society we have now completely strayed away from. Exhibit A. Set fire to this contradicting wannabe white elitist ass shit. The Rock Nation brunch has got to be the most deplorable glorified cesspool of black elitist circle jerk and hypocritical out of touch better off denizens I've ever seen in my life. And the reason why it inspires such a vexation is because upon further inspection, it represents everything they've been telling us to stand against, and yet they construct events in the magical sunny land of plastic big booty bitches. So please laugh with me at the cosmic irony, and it's worse than you think because it's the miscellany of belligerent black babbling aside. The Rock Nation brunch is literally everything a lot of quote-unquote radical celebrities, or at least those that love to make that illusion, love to preach against. When they talk about anti-elitist dark society standing against Islamic corporations, Illuminati, and upholding strong idealistic standard within the black community which echoes the traditions and morals of the black activists that fought for our place in the world, it is merely a mirage of those previous values and philosophies because it does nothing but elucidate the division they, sometimes unknowingly, seek to create. This is the quintessential manifestation of what black excellence looks like, but this isn't what black excellence is supposed to look like. I want to state that not everyone who has ever attended and will probably attend future Roc Nation brunches are bad people, hypocrites, or bad apples. For example, shout out to Mark Phillips from RDC World, who was there last year, and I respect the entire RDC crew. In fact, when I think of black excellence, they actually orbit around that because they don't portray the negative tropes of black wealth or excellence at the expense of their brand. It is their content and they do a damn good job of it. But when it comes down to those that always project the arrows of big corrupt agencies and corporations but will openly laud such an event such as the Roc Nation brunch, who had nasty ass P. Diddy touching people with his unclean hands and a myriad of skeletons that he can no longer contain in his closet come falling out, you really have to wonder how much of what they preach is what they live. In the face of black radicalism, they try to pursue soft or ethical/social capitalism as a good thing, or worse yet, the best we're gonna get. They may not need to actually say it, but they'll do things in support of it. Every single one of them will quote Malcolm X and find honor in his words and wisdom and philosophy. But to the surprise of no one with a brain, he would have actually detested such an ostentatious display of wealth void of any kind of enlightenment. It's like we'd rather reference Malcolm X as opposed to actually represent what he stood for. In fact, didn't Tupac, the one many say to be the greatest rapper of all time, say the same thing?
It's too much money here. I mean, nobody should be hitting lotto for 36 million and we got people starving in the streets. That is not idealistic, that's just real. That is just stupid. There's no way Michael Jackson should have, or whoever Jackson, should have $1,000,000 billion and then there's people starving. If they earned it, then I think that that's good, and I think that they deserve it. But even if you earned it, you still owe. And ain't it bad that you got 30? I mean, can you imagine somebody having $32 million? $32 million, and this person has nothing, and you can sleep. You can still go to the movies about, I mean, and then these are the type of people that get humanitarian awards. Look, okay, I know you're rich. I know you got $40 billion, but can you just keep it to one house? You only need one house. And if you only got 2 kids, can you just keep it to 2 rooms? I mean, why have 52 rooms and you know there's somebody with no room? It just don't make sense to me.
I guess this interview is the one a lot of rappers like to gloss over. You see, desiring merely to occupy the same space as the sovereign powers that be and being more concerned about sitting at the same table as them just to say, see, we can sit here too, creates a lapse in understanding that the salvation of our race and culture has been lost in the books and the texts we refuse to read and refer to. Knowing that we'd rather negotiate for faux freedom as opposed to taking and establishing actual freedom, socially and psychologically, is the complete opposite of radical, liberating, and revolutionary. We are so comfortable with manipulation and coercion as long as they do not explicitly hurt us. They do not physically put the chains around us, but they have fortified the ontological ones in the illusion of choice and power. As Carter G. Woodson put in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro has been so busy doing what he is told to that he has not stopped long enough to think about the meaning of these things. He has borrowed the ideas of his traducers instead of delving into things and working out some thought of his own. Some Negro leaders of these religious factions know better, but they hold their following by keeping people divided and emphasizing non-essentials, the insignificance of which the average man may not appreciate. The highly educated Negroes who know better than to follow these unprincipled men have abandoned these popular churches. We never strayed from these principles or ideologies which dominated us, we just merely adopted them and exercised them on each other. Which leads me to Exhibit B.
Fuck Jay-Z.
Alright, look. I really ain't want to talk about Cuz cause he made Reasonable Doubt. He made Dead Presidents. Can I Live? But Jay-Z, you a whole ass nigga. Why the fuck do you think any one of us need to invest in Bitcoin for, dog? Like, how out of touch can you be for real? I really could have a dedicated case study on this man, but so many others already have to greater lengths and successes, but Jay-Z perfectly encapsulates someone who wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to be the voice for black industrial radicalism whilst reaping in the benefits without having to sacrifice things of actual value and worth for the cause. He wants to control as opposed to lead. He wants to be the only one at the top but remarks that it's okay because he's the only one that can really shoulder the weight of the industry on his back. But the thing is that he is an absolute fraud and a pretender of a revolutionary. Sorry to break it to you, Hov, but being a black billionaire does not serve the black agenda. As you would say, pray for me, y'all. I'ma have to pay for these thoughts. Real niggas is extinct. It ain't safe for me, my dog. It is safe for you, dog. It is so safe for... No one cares, What we care about is how you love to reference someone like Fred Hampton, but you do the exact opposite of what the fuck Fred Hampton died for. The arrogance of thinking white people calling you a capitalist is a slur, similar to being called other derogatory slurs, but you co-sign the naming of your business, Rockefeller Records, in reference to the Rockefeller family, who are known for their redwashing politics and orchestrated the Ludlow Massacre, which happened because the miners went on strike against the Colorado Coal and Iron Company ran by John D. Rockefeller as they were protesting against such harsh living and working conditions, which resulted in the citizens being evicted from the company-owned homes and set up camps to continue their strike, and the company retaliated by killing the strike leaders, the families who tried to escape with their lives, and burned the tents. The older you get, the more you realize Jay-Z is strictly smart in business and not actually intelligent. I want to wrap this up by saying the idea of black excellence must be built on the pretense of not knowing nothing about nothing. Cause Mr. Jay-Z organizing his Ballad of the Bitch Niggas brunch, everyone has to pretend just for a split second that their wealth, their importance is the emblem of black excellence, and they're setting a strong prime example of the strides in which we have taken in the business and entertainment industry in the dream of pseudo-progressiveness. Flashing chains and glorifying inessential lifestyles, this idea has spread out like a virus, infecting the corner of the rest of our society to where we easily latch on to every growing false pretense of what this looks like. The miseducation of our intellect, worth, triumphs, and desires are further pushed by, to the greatest surprise, not white people or any other race, but our own leaders of black culture. And I don't mean scientific leaders. I do not mean intelligent leaders. I mean leaders that do this. And we follow them. We follow them because we are so conditioned to the ignorance that just because that ignorance is rewarded with money, we will strongly perceive that to be a major win for us. We need to start realizing that the liberties of any and everyone is clearly serving a greater injustice than justice. We need to start tipping the scales of how much entertainment we're getting versus how much education we're not getting. We need to start creating a better dichotomy of those who are going to lead and those who are going to be led. And the former cannot be the ones we are so prone to seeing. Not anymore. You want solutions? It starts with the actual willingness to say no to the popular demand of these false idols. Because once you step back, you will see just how far gone we are. Under these notions, black excellence is black capitalism. Black wealth is black capitalism. But that is not an empowerment to the cause, but a mirage. It is all just capitalism. It is all just a facade. And it is all engineered. And it's not by accident. And while we argue over who the puppets and the puppeteers are, the maker of strings sit back in amusement. Take black out of it and start putting it back into the defining powers which gave us these opportunities in the first place. We are disrupted by the discordance of our own blinded disagreements, which is leading us to a greater imbalance. In other words, let's start spilling oil and let's set this motherfucker ablaze!
I saw them treat me like a slave, can we black? Oh, if you feel one heap of pain, can we black? I man, I said them put me in a chain, can we black? How much you now? Me gold chain full of rocks. And you know see the whip, left scar from we back. But now we have a big whip back from the black. Oh, them a say we doom from the start, can we black? But remember this, every race start from the black. Just remember that.
If you y'all made it to the end of the video. Salute to y'all. I was rambling for a hot minute, but more importantly, y'all grew this channel from like 12 subs to 1.6k subs and counting in like 3 weeks. I don't know how y'all did that, but y'all are cracked and I love y'all so much. Thank you. It may not be a lot to some of y'all, but hey, yo, that's a lot to me. And my homeboy told me if I'm gonna take this stuff seriously, I gotta start saying like, comment, and subscribe at the end. You know what I mean, your CTAs. Apparently that works, I don't know, but I'm going to test it out. I got some more interesting content stored up. I want to talk about the psychology of villainous behaviors and associations. I want to talk about how online dating is, what y'all see about that one, and a bunch more intriguing stuff. For my weeaboos out there, go check out my Megumi Fushiguro video about his egoism. I think that's pretty dope. But yeah, thank y'all for listening, and like how everyone else says, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and don't forget to subscribe to this video. You know, when we talk about symptoms, you are quite the anomaly. You're someone no one really wants to truly critique. You're someone who's done an amazing job of persisting through it all. But you've evolved past being just a symptom. What you have become now is somewhat problematic. Please, understand that this is not personal, but for the necessity of balance and representation, I fear your continued misuse of your influence can no longer be ignored. I am not sorry, Kai-Cenat, but you need to go.